The morning sun barely kissed the horizon, its warmth weak against the biting cold of winter's grasp. Deep in the forest, a mother bear trudged through the snow, her breath visible in the frigid air. She was no ordinary bear. Her fur, once thick and majestic, was now matted and thin, offering little protection against the relentless frost. Behind her, two tiny cubs stumbled, their small paws trembling with each step. She had no choice but to keep moving. Their usual dens had been overtaken by the ruthless winter, and her instinct to protect her young drove her to seek shelter, no matter where it might be. In the distance, a small cabin stood amidst the frozen trees. Smoke curled lazily from its chimney, promising warmth inside. Desperation pushed her forward, though fear lingered in her heart. She was a wild creature, and humans were unpredictable. But her cubs, they needed to survive. As the first rays of dawn illuminated the icy landscape, the bear arrived at the cabin's door. With a trembling paw, she raised herself up and tapped gently against the wooden door. Tap, tap, tap. Inside, Ethan, a reclusive woodsman, sat by his fireplace, sipping his morning coffee. The sound startled him, for he rarely received visitors. Grabbing his coat, he cautiously opened the door, expecting a neighbor, or perhaps a stray deer. Instead, he was met with the sight of the mother bear, her eyes pleading. He froze, unsure whether to close the door or run. But as he looked closer, he noticed her cubs shivering behind her. Their fragile bodies barely moved, and their quiet whimpers tugged at his heart. "Are you asking for help?" Ethan whispered, his voice shaking as much as his hands. The bear didn't growl or move aggressively. She simply stood there, waiting. Against all instincts, Ethan stepped aside. "Come in," he said softly, unsure if she'd understand. But she did. Slowly, she guided her cubs inside, careful not to appear threatening. Ethan stoked the fire, spreading blankets on the floor. The cubs curled up almost immediately, their tiny bodies finally beginning to relax. The mother bear settled nearby, her eyes never leaving Ethan, as if she was silently promising no harm would come to him. The hours passed in silence, broken only by the crackling fire. Ethan couldn't help but marvel at the trust this wild creature had placed in him. He prepared a bowl of water and placed it near the mother bear. She nodded slightly, almost as if to say, "Thank you," before lapping it up. Days turned into weeks, and the bear and her cubs grew stronger. Ethan had begun to look forward to their quiet companionship. But one morning, as the snow began to thaw, he woke to find the cabin empty. The bear and her cubs were gone. He felt a strange emptiness in their absence. Yet deep down, he was glad they were strong enough to return to the wild. Life returned to its usual quiet routine. Months later, as spring bloomed, Ethan ventured into the woods to gather firewood. He paused when he heard a rustling in the distance. A familiar figure emerged, a massive bear, healthy and regal, her coat now glossy in the sunlight. Her cubs, no longer tiny, followed closely behind. Ethan froze, unsure of what would happen. But to his astonishment, the bear approached slowly, her movements deliberate. She stopped a few feet away and dropped something at his feet. A cluster of fresh berries, carefully gathered. She looked at him for a long moment, her gaze filled with gratitude. Then she turned, leading her cubs back into the forest. Ethan stood there, his heart full, tears streaming down his face. The wild had spoken in its own way, and it had thanked him. I hope you enjoyed it video. Subscribe to stay up to date with the next stories.